forever.
Ever.
Beth Smith. I'm the CEO of Bear River Mental Health. So the area plan, we come every year and kind of go over a bit about the area plan. That's why I'm here today. I've given you an orange piece of paper so that you can look up the area plan. They stopped killing trees. It's about 75 pages long.
Yeah.
And it covers all of these services and more that are listed here in terms of what our intent is for the year and any changes that we perceive to have been on the horizon for the upcoming year. The plan is a requirement of the State Division of Mental Health, comes from their division directives, which come from the state legislature. So as things happen at the state legislature, they get put into the State Division of Mental Health directives, and then they require us to kind of speak to them in this written document. So it's a document that takes us a little time to complete every year because we have to be kind of intentional about each of these areas. This year's plan has been approved. It's supposed to be approved by the county council. I think Jeff on the board represents you, and Craig Butters actually signs the plan, I think, for all three counties. Is that correct? I don't know that you put your signature on specifically.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do is just highlight a few of the changes in the plan. You're more than welcome to call it up. I hope you do. If you can't sleep on a night or something like that, it might put you to sleep. Just a heads up there. One of the things that we really focused on, I have been in my role for about a year and a half. And one of the first things I did is looked at the partnerships that we have out there with our community members. And I was hearing that we just were not at the table much. So we listed what those should be, and we made assignments based on who we thought would be the best contact there. And I tried to assign people who had decision-making authority to be on these committees and meet with the different agencies so that they could be a part of change. Some of the complaints that I had heard from our people were that they go, but then nothing happens. People just kind of sit around and talk instead of taking things forward. And so we've tried to ask our people who attend to be a part of change, not get involved in problems, but be a part of change. Another thing that you will see in that in the area plan, is that we have started looking at our staff development in terms of whether or not it's evidence-based. We spend a lot of money in sending people to conferences and have decided that we need to make sure that where we send them is considered evidence-based. We've initiated a peer-to-peer chart auditing system where the therapists can look at each other's charts and kind of document what they would recommend the other therapists do better. We have a lot of documentation requirement on us because of the Medicaid contract that we have, which is a significant part of our money. So we felt like we needed to take a better look at our documentation. When I first took this position, Jeff knows this, I applied for a grant and received it. It was telehealth. We didn't have telehealth technology, and we've been really excited to get this telehealth project moving forward. It took a little bit of time in year one to get it going. It was supposed to be in the schools, and I will say initially the schools weren't like overly excited to get it going because it meant some extra work for them. The grant itself allowed us to pay the schools additional money for staffing, for equipment, and for documentation. So we have to do reporting to the state relative to that telehealth system that we utilize. In Cache County, in Rich County, they have embraced it incredibly and asked for more of it and in more schools, which we have accommodated. Box Elder County, we started in 4 schools, and at the end of the year, they reduced it to 2. And I've talked with Jeff about that a little more specifically, but we're fine with that, given that that gives more money over to the other counties, because we will spend the money in the schools.
So why did they?
You know, I don't know. We can't get an answer. Tim Frost, my clinical director, is working with the Box Elder School District. We have a contract with the Box Elder School District, probably to the tune of about $30,000, to go in and provide services to students in schools who don't have funding otherwise. This is just another opportunity to provide more.
Right.
So I believe the schools that we're in now are Grouse Creek, which there aren't many students, but we're covering half of them.
Yeah.
And I want to say Fielding. Is that the school out in Tremont?
It's
Yeah,
north, yeah, about 10 miles
Yeah,
north.
yeah, yeah. Cache County, Cache County is seen as more of an urban area, but even in the city schools, we utilize the telehealth technology, and a lot of times in a crisis setting. So when they have a student who a school counselor really can't do mental health treatment, so they need a licensed mental health therapist, and they will call for the crisis. Many students, that's where they live their lives, via their phone. And this is a technology that allows us to put them right in touch with a therapist via their phone, if that's what they would prefer. So, I don't know. I just,
If you need
we,
our help, I think we'd be more than happy to come with you and see why they're not actually doing it in more schools in Box Elder, because we need
I would like to get
those
that answer.
services.
I would, and that's a wonderful offer. I will talk to
Okay.
Tim Frost and see if we can't do something in that particular regard.
All right.
Yeah, one of the thoughts that I heard was that they are trying to do some of it on their own, that there was some money allocated and that they're keeping it in the school system and trying to do some of the counseling on their own.
Right.
And I think, the counselors do really well for the most part on the scholastic stuff. But I think once you start getting into the mental health, anxiety, depression, different things, it's kind of a different.
Right.
I think we're failing
right.
miserably.
Yeah, and so I
Right.
think, especially with the suicide rates and some of the other issues that we have, I think more can be done.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
we can.
Well, I would welcome that. That's a wonderful offer.
We'd
And
love to help.
that's the kind of partnership that we'd like to see starting to happen there.
Okay.
We'd like to see an option for telehealth in the jails. Jeff has heard me talk about that. We're getting that set up over in Rich County, and they are kind of distant from where our therapists are. You guys are close, and it's easy for us to maybe send someone there during the day. But after hours, it becomes a little more difficult, and if the technology were there, I just feel like it would open a little bit more access. So the other thing that we've done is, you probably have all heard of Medicaid expansion. We tried to really focus on training our case managers to understand the system and understand helping eligibilize people and helping them understand what they would qualify for and how easy it would be to get on Medicaid. They are converting those Medicaid expansion eligibles over to the capitated system January 1st, but we still felt like our case managers needed to do a little better on understanding the Medicaid eligibility process and being available to help people get on Medicaid. The crisis system is another kind of big change made by our center. For years, we've been providing a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis response system. So when people call, we have therapists who take that call and deal with that crisis. The legislature, I think it was 2 years ago, provided a lot of money to the University of Utah Neuropsychiatric Institute to do the statewide crisis response system. Bear River Mental Health converted to that system the 1st of October, this October. We were nervous about it, so people who call our number will get the UNI number now instead of our number. And then UNI refers back any that they feel like they can't deal with over the phone. So that's called a warm handoff back to Bear River Mental Health. So far, I just asked in staff meetings yesterday, my staff is reporting it's gone fairly smooth. So
Good.
just an FYI for you. Now, we still have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, what we call helpline. So your police officers still have somebody who, if they go out and are on site and they're right here within the valley and they stabilize the situation, we can come and help in that response. And so your your police officers would still call that same number, and we would respond. In Cache County, we started an MRT program for those mental health court clients, and for clients who are not necessarily successful with mental health court. We have found great success. It's a group, it's called Moral Recognition Therapy, and it really teaches the individual to take personal responsibility for what's happened. we're feeling very positive about it and looking to maybe instigate the same treatment option over here in Box Elder County. As part of that option, graduates have to do a 20-hour volunteer service project out in the community as well. And we have started using some of those volunteers just in our programs as well. So if we do that over here, it would be a good way of helping them re-engage back into the community and seeing themselves as a citizen as opposed to somebody who's always in trouble. We're happy with what's happening over in Logan and looking at that to come over to Box Elder County. We've focused a lot on jail services. I had a doctor who worked in the Cache County Jail, and he came in my office just waving his arms and upset about seeing an individual for the 5th time since May coming through the jails who was struggling with psychosis. And he just felt like the wrong place is the jail for this individual. And what are we doing once they get out of jail to re-engage them in the community and keep them out of jail? And so we initiated a program that included contacting pharmaceutical companies relative to getting some samples available of the medications that are not normally available to the jails because they're so expensive. But they're what we call injectables. It's hard when you have somebody who doesn't believe they need to take medication and they come out and then they won't engage in treatment. It's hard to get them into service, and then they just end up back in the jail. So we've got approval from several pharmaceutical companies who are willing to give us limited injectables to use in the jails for some of these people that are identified. We're not talking about a whole slew of people. We're talking about maybe a handful that just keep cycling through the jail. We're also assigning a specific case manager, both in Cache County and in Rich County, so that when the individual comes out of jail, we're there and we take them to the Medicaid office and get them re-eligibilized for Medicaid and get them into our treatment so that they have less of a chance of landing back in jail. We're excited about this program. It's fairly new, so watch for that over here as well. The other thing that we're excited about in Box Elder County, and I've probably taken too much time, is what they call the integration grant, where we're working with substance abuse, with the FQHC and Bear River for individuals who have 2 of those 3 issues, health, substance abuse, or mental health, to integrate care. And it doesn't cost them anything. I think if they're on Medicaid, then we'll bill Medicaid for that service. If they're not on Medicaid, then we will provide any of those services in an integrated fashion by coordinating with substance abuse and coordinating with the physical care doctor to make sure all of their needs are taken care of. And integration is a big subject across the state of Utah, and we're really excited that right here in Box Elder County, we don't even have it in Cache County, that we're able to say that we're doing that. So we're watching that one closely and watching for what that means in the future. So with that, I'm sorry it took so long. Do you have questions for me?
What would it take to implement telehealth over here?
You know, it's a really simple thing to implement. When we did the grant, we budgeted all this money to put laptops out in the schools, and we get to the schools and they already have the equipment. You know, so it's basically all you need is the internet. The division provided us the software that is HIPAA compliant and secure. And really what it takes is the prescriber just basically sends out a link. It might come through to you on your phone, and you click the link. And then you might have to sign that you're acknowledging or a release or something like that, and an acceptance of telehealth service. And then you go into a waiting room, and then the prescriber or provider clicks, and then you just see each other on the screen and do the service.
Yeah, specifically, I mean, for the jail, would it be the same thing over here? They would just need to have a location that was secure, private, and then just have the software on that
Right.
computer so that it's
It's not even software you have to have on the computer. You just have
Just
to
a
have the
link.
internet.
The link.
okay.
Right.
It's probably something we ought to look at.
Dale, is that something that you'd be interested in, the telehealth? Would we just need to contact Ralph and you and Kevin and
Yeah,
visit about that?
yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, if that would take some pressure off of you, because I know now that you have folks that are corrections and they're also, certified nurses,
Right.
but I mean, mental health, if it's something that somebody comes in at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday,
Well, we have mental health coming into the jail on Thursday now. And quite often people will sign up. And we oftentimes don't have enough mental health capacity or treatment to handle all the people, because we'll have people that will sign up and they won't be able to be seen that week. I think I forget her
Yeah.
name.
Probably Shayla.
Shayla.
Shayla Glade.
Is going into the jail right now, and she's a great asset, but she's there once a week.
Right. So essentially, and I can talk with Tim and Shayla about this, individuals who are on Medicaid who go into the jail, eventually, after they spend time in the jail, do lose their Medicaid.
Right.
And so we tend to want to focus on those who are in crisis or psychotic, because we don't have a lot of funds to serve those who aren't funded.
Right.
But we do have, that's why she goes in for 2 hours a day or however long, into the jail, because we do, under our contract with the county, we really should be doing a little bit of service there. Now, is it 5 days a week for 8 hours a day? Probably not, but we want to try and be a better partner in the jails. So, to the jail, is this the sheriff? Or the
chief deputy.
Okay, so if any of them are Medicaid, that would be a wonderful way to connect, because there's no question about, are they funded, can we do it? We should have time to serve anybody
All right.
who is currently on Medicaid. If they're not, then I think it would have to be kind of a priority-based situation.
Yeah, if you wanted to turn Tim loose on that, he
Okay.
could just visit with one of us. I'm sure that he knows Dale and
Right.
Kevin.
Right,
Tim has worked closely with Ralph Bennett a
Okay.
lot, the jail commander, so
okay, I'll be seeing Tim today, so we'll talk about that.
All right.
But yes, I
Sounds
hear
good.
you.
So that in the school system, let us know what else we can do.
Right.
Okay.
Very good. We appreciate what you do. It's a tough population at times. They don't get all the help that they need and reoffend, and some of the places that they end up just aren't the best place to get care. So we really appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
thanks, Beth.
And we appreciate you all as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Coming.
Okay, Children's Justice Center.
Thank you for having us.
You bet.
We've been here before.
I don't think you have either.
I'm Joan, I'm the director of the instant cash
You might want to wait till you get to the microphone so we can get it on.
together here.
Thank you.
I'm the director of the Children's Justice Center that covers Cash, Box Elder, and Rich, and I was really glad to have Beth here ahead of us. She actually had come and met with us when she first started, and we partner with them on the mobile stabilization unit, and they also attend our case staffing. They're a big asset, so it kind of segued really nicely into what we do here. And I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Cash Children's Justice Center or the CJC model, but in a nutshell, it's a safe place for a child to come talk about abuse and something that has traumatized them. So it sounds like a very serious subject. They're coming and they have to get details in order to hold an encounter, take them to court and hold them responsible for what they did. We have to get pretty detailed information. So we have a very evidence-based model that we use, but surprisingly, I think what would shock most people is that most of the kids leave happy. You know, they're just very relieved to be believed. They're very happy that they finally get to unburden this horrible secret that they've been holding on to. So I'm gonna let Sterling, he's our local coordinator. We do have a satellite here that's based in Box Elder County that services the whole county. And he had a story that he wanted to share to give you an example of the difference that this is making in people's lives.
Hello, Sterling Marks. This is one of the first. So recently when I started with the Brigham Children's Justice Center, we were able to get some grant funding, and it allows us to offer therapy services to victims and families that come in. And after doing that, one of the first families that came through, I follow up with the families after time so that they're not left. It's a continuous relationship we have. But I reached out to the mother and asked if she would share her story. her son's story. And so I'll just read her words. So she says, "My son's journey began 7 years ago. However, the family journey began only this last November. It took him that long to share his pain he held for so long. We were devastated but took action. He interviewed with DCFS. What I feared would make him more vulnerable was the beginning of healing. He started therapy with someone in town immediately, and it turned out not to be a good fit. We tragically discovered that once he convinced everyone how good he was doing, less than a week later nearly completed suicide. To this day, I know it was a miracle he survived. It wasn't a cry for help. He truly wanted to die in that moment and told me later he'd been planning it for weeks. That morning and subsequent 11 days of inpatient mental health therapy were a turning point. He realized he was glad he was alive and he got intense help. The hospital put us in touch with you guys, and all the long-term change began. Sterling made what seemed to be insurmountable to a hysterical mother easy. He put all the right people in place to help this sweet, lost teenage boy." And talks about the therapist. Jen was incredibly calm, reassuring, and compassionate. She truly understood from the first day and had a plan. We went every week, and it seemed that every week he was learning how much he was worth and how to take his life back. He became my son again. He was smiling, real smiles, joking, teasing, seeing his friends more. I went from frightened to find him dead every morning to learning to enjoy his smiles again. The coping skills she taught him will serve him his whole life and gave us a strong foundation to continue to grow through this tragedy. He didn't resist seeing her. He liked going. He knew it was helping. He is his true self. I can never thank you all enough for that. Being so sure that your dearest being would end his own life was more than I could take, and it was destroying me. Knowing someone could do that to him was too much. I can't imagine how he dealt with it for all those years. He didn't feel alone. Talks about the therapist, that she was magic. Her words, presence fostered healing and forward movement. He didn't feel alone anymore. Thank you for giving us our lives back and for helping him become the young man who can continue to become the wonderful person he is. Your work has been exhausting, as this is more an epidemic than isolated incidents. You change lives, you give hope and the ability to carry on. Love to all of you and your entire team who make this possible.
So our goal is really to let the kids be kids again, so that they can move on and heal from this. And I think that's just so critical. And it's a piece where DCFS and law enforcement work together. So what was happening in the state is you had all these interviews of the kids happening. The agencies were not coordinating. They weren't working together. And frankly, cases were lost and kids were just being left out, and sometimes the process was traumatizing them. So the CJC model brings them, they can come to a safe, warm environment. The interview is very conversational. It's not like what you're gonna see on CSI, but very conversational. It doesn't introduce anything that they haven't brought up themselves. So it's very friendly. They do rapport building, and it holds up in court. And Brian can attest to that. It really makes a tremendous difference in court.
I just say, I know Sterling and I know Joan already quite well. We meet at least once a month. We go through the list. We coordinate that with investigators. We coordinate it with DCFS if there's case plans available, safety plans. We have a therapist there. We have the county attorney's office there. We have victim advocates there. And I will tell you one example. I tried a case here a while back, and we had a young man who had special needs. And he did a CJC interview. By the way, these interviews were started in Utah, and they're now used nationwide. It's a fabulous program. It's evidence-based. It's a fabulous interview technique and program that I've been trained in as well. I don't do the interviews, but I know and understand how they work so that I can understand them. And I actually used Cheryl Bergen a few times in my trials. And I will tell you, I did a trial a while back where we had multiple victims. Several of them were in Salt Lake, and they could not make it stick. And this young man had some learning disabilities, but he was brought in, he did a CJC interview, and we got a conviction based upon the CJC interview and the evidentiary rules, because he was unable to talk about it in court. But because of the techniques and the expertise that was used by the CJC, that video we were able to use that in court, and we were able to get a conviction on a guy who had probably molested at least a half a dozen children. So my hat's off to these folks. They do a brilliant, brilliant work in this community, and they're serving children that absolutely get lost in the criminal justice system without their assistance. And I can't say enough about how fantastic of a program CJC is in our community.
That's cool. So where do you do the interviews here in Brigham City?
We're actually housed in the DCFS building, but
Okay.
they dedicated space to us.
Gotcha.
And then another component of that is some of these kids frankly need medical care. You know, we have pregnancies or concerns about sexually transmitted diseases and so forth, broken bones and other injuries, and documenting bruising. And we have a very strong partnership. So in our cash facility, we have a medical examination room, and it is completely staffed by Primary Children's Hospital. So the families can come there. It's a short distance from Box Elder. And then that piece also, it's a forensic examination, as well as somebody also reassuring these kids, it wasn't your fault. So that piece is very strong for the court. And we are overseen by the Attorney General's office as well. So it's a very strong program within the entire state.
If Jen's is the one I think it is, I know who that is, and she's a phenomenal counselor.
So
Does a
if you
great
could
job.
wave your magic wand and, I mean, not necessarily make everything go away, but what would be the biggest part that we could help and the community could help with? Bring this stuff out to the light so maybe, some of the stuff wouldn't happen. Is there, a magic pill, anything that you'd think that, besides...
That would help, yeah. Honestly, I think it's just happening. If you look at the pages that we gave you, there are some stats in there, and,
Right.
and we've had
That's what I was
almost
looking at.
1,000 interviews in your community since we started in 2007 here as a satellite. The main thing I think is getting the kids help so that they can move forward. We want to decrease that suicide risk and the anxiety and really that festering of carrying those secrets, the damage that does. And many people don't tell even into adulthood, sadly. So we want them to understand that there's a process out there, that there's support out there, that we will give them resources. And we have a multidisciplinary team that Brian mentioned, where we have therapists and victim advocates and everyone kind of working together to what's going to be the best interest of this child to help them move forward.
So how do you get the story out that he read to us, to the masses, besides Nelson?
Nelson has been gracious enough. He's
Yeah.
done a couple of interviews. We would love to do a little bit more outreach and do some more presentations. That may be something, if you guys are very committed to that, to maybe telling us some locations that you think would be helpful for us to go see. We'd like to get in and speak. Right now, we work a lot with the detectives, but not so much with patrol. But there's a way to approach a child and talk to a child that makes them feel a little bit safer about disclosing. And so we're starting to roll out a program that we will offer out to patrol and school resource so that it talks about how to introduce conversations and to do that.
Have you been
I would
into
love
the,
to have more information about there, that there is a safe place, and don't be afraid to report it.
Yeah, have you been into the school district? Have the teachers, the principals been trained on this so that if there's red flags or if there's something that they can see, they know how to approach it? Because, they're the ones that are in contact and see these kids on a daily basis.
And a lot of times they're going to be telling somebody at school,
Right.
whether it's a peer or a teacher that they
Okay.
trust. So the schools do get mandatory training, but I would like to reach out, and we've had discussions, and we have limited time
Right.
too, but we would like to do a better job with getting a stronger connection with the school, maybe having them attend our case staffing, and start because the kids have needs. They go to school after something like this has happened, they're afraid people know what's happened, They're not wanting to go to school. They might have trouble concentrating. I mean, there's some real mental health issues and impacts. So we would like to tie that in better with the school district, and we'll be working on that within the next
Have
year.
you guys
to do
ever
that.
came and talked to Bragg, the Bear Association of Governments? I don't think you have since I've been here.
No, I don't think we have. That's a great idea.
I almost think that maybe you should be able to come, maybe at our fall or spring meeting and come talk to everybody that's on the Bear Associations of Government. See if you can't tap into even not only some of the funding and stuff that's happening in that arena, but also to be able to put this out. I mean, because I've heard of the CJC and stuff. I sit on the AG's task force, and so I'm very aware of this stuff, but I don't think we realize how much more important it is with, Safe Utah, you guys, everything that's going on in our arena to be able to do those things. So whatever we could do to help in that aspect, we'd love to.
Yeah.
Until a
Thanks
year
for what
ago,
you
we
do.
did not have somebody full-time here. So that, I think that's an exciting thing, and kudos to Sterling for being
Yeah.
here full-time and being able to work
It's
those
going very well.
cases. So
That's awesome.
if you do have questions, we're happy to entertain those, or just give us a call at any time.
Okay,
Okay, will do.
thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for all you do.
Joan, could I get your last name?
Liquid, Liquin.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see,
Marla.
11:50, Marla.
Aylin Stander has served on the Tremont and Garland Drainage District for quite a while. When we went to reappoint their people in 2018, we could never get a hold of him, but he has finally contacted us, so we need to reappoint him. His term will expire in December 31st, 2021.
So moved.
He's willing to serve.
He is willing to serve.
Okay. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Very good.
Is that the only one?
For now.
Okay.
Okay.
You'll have a whole bunch coming up at the end
That's what
of
I was just
December.
Diane, looks like you got this one.
Got it.
Okay.
So I would like to talk about the retirement incentive. It's similar to the incentives offered in the past. The retirement dates would be January 1st, and then January 16th, and February 1st, and February 16th of 2020. Offering this incentive has the possibility to save the county $389,710. The Human Resources has identified 18 employees who could qualify for the incentive. Employees must have all the years to qualify for retirement or be over the age of 65 to qualify for the incentive. Similar to the years past, a non-disclosure agreement will be required to be signed by the employee and notarized before the incentive information is given out. So, yes. We should
Dale, don't think about it. I won't approve it, so, and I know Jeff won't either.
We've had this discussion multiple times. Let's see, I had one question. What level of interest, do you know about how many of these 18 would maybe consider it or looking seriously at this point?
There's a few.
Okay, very good. No, I think this works out really well. It's a good incentive for the employees. It's a kind of a nice reward at the end of their career for the years of service. And the county benefits as well. It saves the county money, and so there's really not a downside.
Well, except for we're starting to lose a lot of institutional knowledge. I think that's what makes
Okay,
it
that's a
nervous.
downside.
Yeah, the downside is that we've got people that have worked here a long time, and sometimes you just can't replace them overnight. So that's my biggest fear, is that we get to this point where everybody thinks we're trying to get rid of them, and we're really not. So, but in that case, I will make a motion we approve the offerings retirement incentive for January and February of 2020.
I will second that. All in favor?
Thanks,
Okay,
man.
thank you. All right,
It's the
Scott Lyons Show. Turn turn the remainder of the meeting over to Scott Lyons.
I'll second that.
Okay, first item is a requested amendment to the 2019 Corridor Preservation Fund priority list. You should have received a copy of that priority list. The amendment to it is, at least on the one that I had was at the very end, it's in blue and it is under construction and maintenance, and it is submitted by Manaway at their 100 South and Main Street intersection. So that is the only amendment to that list. I don't know if there's any questions.
I'll make a motion that we approve the corridor preservation's amendment. Do you want me to put who it is and by Manaway?
Or just approve the amended list.
Just approve the amended list.
Okay, and it's just and that includes that, and then the red is the addition,
Reds were additions in
Okay.
2019. Blue is the
the amendment.
amendment.
Okay,
to-
very good. Okay, I will second that. All in favor? Okay,
All right, next one. Brigham City, this is their final request for payment from their project identified as CPF 16-03. So this is their 1200 West project that was approved in 2016. So they have, this final request came in for $36,617.68. Bringing their total to $642,513.30, which put them about just over $64,000 under budget on the entire project. So, anyway, all you're approving today is that $36,617.68.
okay.
I'll make a motion we approve the corridor preservation fund Brigham City request for payment for the said funds of $36,617 and
68.
cents. Can't read my own writing, sorry.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
It looks like they have letters of intent for, I think, 3 more sections with Wasatch Front Regional Council for surface transportation plan funds as well.
Good,
So,
good. All right, next project. These are new applications. These went before the COG at their meeting. What date was their meeting? That was last week?
Last Monday morning.
Last Monday evening.
Yeah.
These projects come with a recommendation or with an approval from the COG. You as the legislative body are the final approving body on this. The first one is Tremont City, 1650 West and Main Street. It's an intersection at that location that heads south. This one met the minimum qualification for funding by points for a large city is 25 points. This project qualified with 32 points. The requested funds are $200,000, and this is for acquisition.
Any questions? I already sat through it all, so.
yeah, I'm just looking through there again. So, okay.
I'll make a motion we need to approve the corridor preservation fund for Tremont City, the 1650 West and Main intersection for the $200,000.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Does it have a number, a project number or anything?
That one would be corridor preservation. That'd be CPF 19-0. What would that one be? 19-06.
Thank you.
Perry City. This one was this is basically a request from a project in 2016. They over the last 3 years prices have increased on some of the land that they're acquiring, and so they are coming back to request some additional funding. This one also qualifies for funding by points. It came to 30 points, and the minimum number is 25. This one, they're essentially requesting an additional, for the 1200 West North End project, they're requesting an additional 187,407. For the 1200 West South End project, they're requesting an additional 49,684. And for the 900 West North Phase, they're requesting an additional 50,900. This one as well went before the COG last week and was approved by that body.
Scott, can I just say that they were going to readjust the funds, and the COG decided to actually give them the additional funds instead of redistributing the funds that were there.
Correct.
So, okay, I make a motion that we approve the Corridor Preservation Fund Perry City additional funds request, and we can go back to Scott's things on
For
those.
the north and the south and the 900 west.
Yes.
Okay. I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
The last project from the Corridor Preservation Fund is the request by Manaway at 100 South and Main Street. This one falls in the small city category. They only need 15 points to qualify for funding. This one qualified for funding with 20 points. This is a construction and maintenance project, not a corridor preservation project. This project estimate is $135,000, and that is the amount requested from the fund, and that is the amount approved by the COG as well at their meeting last week.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Corridor Preservation Fund Manaway City 100 South and Main to the amount of $135,000.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye. Did you ever come up with a rotating or how much is in there now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Final project is the Anderson Boulevard subdivision. This is a 3-lot subdivision in the South Willard area. It's located at approximately 1240 west, 7800 south. Each lot is 2 acres in size. It's in the RR2 zone, and it has been reviewed and approved by all applicable county departments, and it comes before you with a recommendation of approval.
This is the one that was on the last agenda that got pushed forward.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Anderson Boulevard subdivision.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Guess I don't need to ask if anybody's opposed when I can hear everybody, right?
I don't know, ask Marlon.
Okay.
I'd say ask Steve, he's not here either.
I can kind of tell it's unanimous on these, so. Okay. All right.
Did you want to sign that?
Yeah.
Diane, do we have any
Yes.
warrant registers? Not warrant registers, we have warrant registers. Personnel?
You won't be using this one, huh? Okay, right here, 16th.
Got my trick or treat bag.
That I can get in there.
I think so.
This one I can do.
Keith gave me a cable.
Oh, was that why I need to go downstairs?
Oh, well, he's got, that's what he threw in my trick or treat bag.
Okay.
Very cool.
Oh, their thing is amazing.
Did you have it down?
Yeah, he met her on the way out.
Steve didn't warn me. Are there any closed sessions?
There's not.
Oh, there you go.
Unless you got something on the skills.
All right, thank
We advertised for it, right? Let's go back and have a talk.
We can go down and go through the IT stuff.
There you go.
I didn't have anything to do. Thought I already signed it. Yeah, I think I got them both. He's in California. Would you like me to take it to him? When are we supposed to announce our winners for awards and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna do it that day of the.
Halloween lunch?
I have no idea, I'm not in charge.
Neither am I. Not even close.
Bribery.
Look at this.
I thought that's what these candies were.
A whole trick or treat bag. Yeah. Got bribes.
Yeah.
No, it's Boss's Day today.
It is? Wow, I should get my wife something.
It's what day today?
She says it's boss's day today. I said I should get my wife something. Don't tell her I said that.
It's gonna be in the paper, I think.
Print it,
I was gonna say something mean like, it's okay, she doesn't read, but.
Yeah, stop.
I'm gonna print that too.
Stop while you're in line instead of waiting.
Are we still on the record?
Oh. Yeah, you're still in a meeting.
Remind me not to approve those meetings.
That's good. It is among several others.
Those are pretty cool. Good thing they gave me to the end of the meeting.
That's right.
Whack 'em out. That's pretty cool.
I'll grab the ones he's already signed.
Oh, there is some candy in the bottom there, whatever that is. Oh, it's a.
Oh, there's just.
I got adored. Okay, is that it?
No closed session.
No closed session?
Not unless you got something.
Nada. I would entertain one more motion
I would make that motion that we cease.
and desist.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.